Hello everybody! Welcome back to English class. My name is Elnura and I'm your English teacher. I hope you are doing well and ready to learn today's subject, which is press in the United States of America. The nature of news is a favorite subject of discussion among journalists. Some place the emphasis on one aspect, some on another, but it is generally agreed that the essence of news is topicality, novelty, and general interest. To be news, an item of information must have a bearing on the affairs of the moment. It must be new to those who hear or read it, and it must arouse the interest of a considerable number of those hearers and readers. The art of news gathering calls for a highly developed sense of news values. To acquire this sense, the journalist must have a wide acquaintance with men and affairs, a sound educational background, and a very considerable stock of general knowledge. For it is only thus that he will be able to distinguish what is new from what is already known, and what is of topical interest from what is of little concern to the majority of his readers. And this knowledge he must keep constantly up to date by being himself a reader of newspapers and magazines. Above all, he must have his finger on the pulse of current thought and public opinion. He must be aware of what the great mass of men and women around him are thinking and feeling. He must never lose the common touch, for although he himself may move in a circle whose interests are specialized, what he writes must appeal to the man in the street. Well guys, let's warm up. As you can see, there is a list of words. Your task is to find their meanings or definitions. I'll show you an example first, then you'll have enough time to do it on your own. Later, we'll check together. Let's start. A topic means a matter dealt within a text, discourse, or conversation. Or topic means a subject. Well, students, let's check. Background means a person's education, experience, and social circumstances. To give priority to something is when you treat something as more important than anything or anyone else. The topic of the day means hot potato or the subject of the day. Topical means relevant or the exact subject that is raising interest of population. First priority is when something that is very important and must be dealt with before other things. A topical article on medicine means relevant or very interesting article on medicine. Mass media, that is the press, the radio, and television, play an important role in the life of society. They inform, educate, and entertain people. They also influence the way people look at the world and make them change their views. Mass media mold public opinion. Millions of people in their spare time watch TV and read newspapers. Everybody can find there something interesting for him. On the radio, one can hear music, plays, news, and various discussions or commentaries of current events. Lots radio or TV games and films attract a large audience. Newspapers uses in different ways, but basically they are read. There is a lot of advertisement on mass media. Some of the TV and radio stations and newspapers are owned by different corporations. The owners can advertise whatever they choose. But it's hardly fair to say that mass media don't try to raise cultural level of the people or to develop their artistic taste. Mass media brings to millions of homes not only entertainment and news, but also cultural and educational programs. Well, here's the question. Where does your knowledge of the news come from? For example, in Britain, 62% of population gets its information from television, 23% from newspapers, and 13% from radio. A TV news broadcast is therefore an important source of information. However, are TV news broadcasts more concerned with entertainment than information? Look at the facts. News broadcasts are introduced by the same kind lively music as other programs on TV. Programs also began with headlines designed to attract the viewer. The newsreaders are often attractive and friendly. They sit behind impressive desks and often feature in newspaper articles about their private lives. Well, here more facts. The news items may be serious, but they are often followed by advertisements, which makes them less significant. The average length of item is only 45 seconds. This means even important items may only get 3 or 4 times in coverage. As a result, TV news cannot deal with complex issues, and when it does, it tends to simplify them. Let's now learn a new word, which is conscience. As later, we'll have tasks connected with this word. Well, conscience is an inner sense that is conscious of moral rightness or wrongness of one's behavior or intentions, and it makes one know whether one is doing right or wrong. Well, as you can see, there are lists of words. You have to match the phrases on the left with their meanings or definitions on the right. Let me show you an example first, then you'll have time to do it by yourself. Later, we'll check together. Well, the phrase "have no conscience" means be as ready to do wrong as right. Continue completing this task, then we'll check together. Well guys, let's start checking. A prisoner of conscience means in prison, especially for political or religious beliefs. In all conscience means being fair and reasonable. On one's conscience means feel troubled about something one has done or failed to do. Have something on one's conscience means making one feel guilty. Because of the great size of the United States of America, local newspapers are more important than national ones. Only the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune and Wall Street Journal are read over a large part of the country. But there are other newspapers that have a wide interest and influence. They include the Washington Post, the popular Daily News, the Baltimore Sun, and Philadelphia Inquirer, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and the Sun and the San Francisco Examiner. Most United States newspapers are controlled by large monopolists. The United States press plays an important part in the business of government. The press conference is an American invention. Their pages vary and include columns devoted to news, editorials, letters to the editor, business and finance, sports, entertainment, art, music, books, comics, fashions, food, society, television, and radio. As the great newspaper chains and news agencies grew, Americans pressed its individualistic character. Many features are common to newspapers all over the country, which therefore have a uniform appearance. The New York Times has the largest circulation of any news. The New York Times has the largest circulation of any newspaper in the United States, selling more than 2 million copies each day. Almost every American newspaper carries comic strips, usually at least a page of them. The newspaper as a mass communication medium reaches its highest development in our great metropolitan centers. Here the publishers and editors think of readers not in terms of thousands, but of millions. Figuring 3 readers to each copy of the paper printed, which is a common rule of thumb in the profession. A big city newspaper with a Sunday circulation of 1 million copies is read by 3 million people. The impact of a single news story flowing from the typewriter of one reporter and published in such a huge edition is easy to conceive. Few, if any, stories in a metropolitan paper are read by all who purchase the paper. Every reader is selective in the stories he chooses, picking a limited number of items from the huge tray of reading delicacies on the basis of his needs, interests, and even his whims. Even so, every story in a metropolitan paper, no matter how insignificantly it is displayed, is seen by thousands of readers. The young man or woman looking toward metropolitan newspapers as a place to work discovers 2 major differences from smaller dailies: greater speed and greater specialization. Most small dailies have 1 basic edition a day designed primarily for delivery to homes. Some may supplement this with a street sale edition in which the front page is remade with larger, flashier headlines and late sports results for sale to casual purchases. Or they may have an early, skimpily organized edition for distribution to rural areas. In contrast, many metropolitan papers publish at least 5 editions within a period of 8 hours. Afternoon papers are especially burdened with numerous editions because of the fast-changing nature of news during the daytime hours. This means high-speed work by editorial staff, which must be constantly alert for last-minute news developments, and equally fast work by the circulation department in distributing papers to locations where crowds are gathered temporarily, such as homeward-bound commuter crowds. A typical metropolitan deadline sheet has minute-by-minute rules telling when the final story must cross the city desk and move from the copy desk to the composing room, when the last photograph must leave the editorial art department for the engraving room, when the final page must move off the composing stone, when the last plate must be cast in the stereotype department, and finally, what minute the press must start. Many editors and personnel managers of metropolitan papers advise beginners to work on small papers for from 3 to 5 years before trying the Metropolitan field. Often a young man coming to a Metropolitan staff with 3 or 4 years of smaller city work to his credit will advance faster than one similar age who has spent those same years on the big city paper. The all-around experience of a smaller paper prepares the young reporter to fill many different jobs as they become available. How a Metropolitan news staff functions. The key figure in the local news gathering activities of a big city paper is the city editor. He may have a staff of as many as 50 reporters, even more in a few cases, who are deployed at the most productive news sources or held in reserve as general assignment reporters to be dispatched as important stories break. The reporters who are placed on specific beats, such as the police department or city hall, are responsible for gathering all news that occurs in their territory and turning it into the city desk. When time permits, they write the stories themselves, but the urgency of deadlines often makes this impossible, so they telephone their facts to a rewrite man. When the story has been written, either by the reporter who covered it or by a rewrite man, it is turned into the city desk. There, the editor or an assistant reads it to catch errors, to be sure that it is easily understood, and to look for angles which need further development. Writers and readers like concentrate on finding a good lead for the story, an opening paragraph which summarizes the situation or entices the reader to continue further into the article. Much reporting is done by telephone. The man assigned to a story calls as many sources as possible to cross-check his facts for accuracy and to make sure that he presents the best rounded story he can. In 1966, the Times instituted several significant changes that continue as an integral part of its success today. It converted its rather heavy 8-column pages to a modern 6-column format, with column rules eliminated. On page 2, the paper began a full-page news summary, providing readers with a concise or short and comprehensive roundup of the major news developments in all the principal news areas. About the same time, it also began carrying special background or interpretive articles which have ranked among journalism's best. The foreign correspondent for the Times enjoys greater freedom than many of his American counterparts. Like the overseas reporters for the best European quality dailies. He is not bound by deadlines, nor is he under pressure to file every day. He digs in depth and takes his time providing interpretation of events. He is interested in why as much as the what of the story. Perhaps more than any other United States paper, the Los Angeles Times seeks experts for its foreign bureaus. First, the Times' requisites for staff are very high, and even higher for foreign correspondents. To even gain consideration for a Times post, an applicant must have a proven record of at least 5 years of experience with other newspapers, magazines, or other media. At the same time, as one observer has commented, being a correspondent for the Times is the closest one can come to a career service. in overseas journalism since the days when London Times correspondents enjoyed such status. The Times manages to have readers in 10,651 towns in every state and in nearly all countries. Because of its thoroughness, it is highly respected in the nation's colleges and universities, found in practically every academic library, and widely read by college presidents, professors, and students. Its thick Sunday edition, sometimes containing 400 pages and weighing 4 pounds, finds its way into pace-setting homes across the face of the nation, with at least 1/3 of the copies going outside New York City. The newspaper's prestigious leadership audience around the world has long helped to make it not only a great American daily, but also a key member of the world's elite press. Well, guys, you made a great job. So now you will be comfortable enough to talk about press in the United States. See you next class.